All right, welcome back to Problem Solver Politics. I am your host, Cardinellis, with Cody the Oracle.
Hey, everybody.
And you know what? Unfortunately, Andrew Yang didn't officially qualify, ladies and gentlemen. However, he is not going out without swinging, okay? And he actually just released a statement that has a lot of data that doesn't necessarily corroborate the claims that he doesn't qualify. And there's definitely some challenges going on to the orthodoxy of the DNC right now. And it's really interesting to see what Andrew Yang is going to be doing moving forward, because he's definitely not giving up. Neither is the Yang Gang, neither is the campaign. So, Cody, can we dive in and can you tell us what's going on?
Yeah, of course. So, like you said, it was made official 9 p.m. last night Pacific, midnight last night Eastern time, that Andrew Yang indeed will not be on the January debate stage. However, this morning, the Andrew Yang campaign kind of started their response to this. So this is don't normally just show you guys the press releases we get, but this one's interesting. So I got this morning. It said a press release, Yang 2020. I'm sure a lot of you got as well. The polls have it. Andrew Yang should be on the debate stage. So yesterday, CNN and the Des Moines Register, host of the next Democratic primary debate on January 14th, announced their latest poll, which found that Iowa caucus goers want Andrew Yang in the debate. This poll by the debate host proves that voters' opinions are shifting as they start to pay closer attention to the candidates. There is genuine momentum behind Andrew Yang's campaign, and it would be a mistake for the Democratic National Committee to keep him from the last debate before the Iowa caucus. They're referring to the Des Moines Register CNN poll last night that Andrew Yang at 5%, which is good. And this is where it gets spicy. It says, quote, "If the DNC had only done their due diligence and commissioned polls in the early states, Andrew Yang would certainly be on the debate stage next week. We are not going to allow the DNC to dictate who they wish to see as the nominee and deny the will of the people. The issues that will decide this election and the future of the country are too important to ignore for the sake of stage political bickering. The DNC tried to run the same play in 2016, and they paid for it with a loss in the general." He's invoking 16 now, exactly.
Yeah, can you just pause for 1 second, Cody? What have we been saying on this channel since day one is at least my biggest complaint with the DNC? That post 2016, you think they would be walking on eggshells.
They would have learned the lesson, yeah.
To be as transparent and as we're trying to play favorites through the polls and through the planning of the debates and through this and that. They screwed Bernie Sanders. I can't stand Bernie Sanders. Okay, but I will fight to the death for him to have equal representation and a fair playing field in an open field of ideas, because everything he does is to express his ideas legally, and he is a straight shooter. Like side by side, I would fight with that man in the war of ideas, okay? Because he does it legally and he does it fair. What happened to him in 2016 was shameless, and they're refusing to learn this lesson. Like, if they were a legitimate party, they would literally be thinking, "Oh crap, we got caught. Okay, let's not try and do this again for at least 2 cycles." You know what I'm saying? Because people have really short memory spans, and they're not. Like, they're not. At what point do we just completely discredit the party completely?
Well, I would say just
woefully corrupt.
Well, they are corrupt. Both parties are corrupt. The government's corrupt. They're all corrupt. I would agree with that. But I would say the larger thing
Republicans aren't dousing people in the RNC.
I am not going to get into this nonsense again, but who is corrupt and who isn't? They're all corrupt. Anyway, the bigger thing I would say there is just the idea that so far they have advanced their corruption to something different. So it doesn't look exactly like 2016, so they probably won't pay for it until you say like the general, if this continues. Anyway, though, they continue in the release. So what was fascinating to me. So when the DNC refused, the Yang campaign decided to commission 2 polls with 2 highly regarded polling organizations, Patinakin Research Strategies and Myers Research in both New Hampshire and Nevada. The unbiased feedback shows that Andrew Yang is on the rise and at 5% in Nevada and New Hampshire. They go on to mention the credits of the polling organization, which of course is very good, and they mentioned the grassroots support of the Andrew Yang campaign. So what I thought would be interesting is I wanted to take a look at these 2 polls that the Andrew Yang campaign released, and see if there's anything. A couple of things stood out to me that I thought were interesting in them. One biggest thing is that they both show, generally speaking, the results we've been seeing elsewhere.
Yeah.
But here, take a look at this card. So check this out.
Okay.
So this is the first one from Patinakin Research Strategies, the New Hampshire statewide poll. One thing I thought I wanted to point out, because Andrew Yang does get referenced a lot that is overwhelmingly male audience. Well, I like that they weighted it female, 55 to 45, and female to male. Not a huge weight, but a little. And then also 21% were on cell phone. So it wasn't only landline polling, which is also interesting. And look at the results we see here, and tell me if this is like, is Bernie Sanders at 19 and Joe Biden at 21% really like crazy? Does that not look like what normal polls look like in the area? And you notice Andrew Yang right there at 5%, which again is not that out of the norm, right?
Yeah, and that's actually it's kind of good news that in a female-dominated poll with still a landline-dominated methodology, still shows him at 5%. Which means that's like a real life 7%.
Yeah, well, also keep in mind, it's also not like, the Andrew Yang's campaign poll. Andrew Yang's actually at 29%. Like, no, this is basically what we're seeing in the other results. And this is the other thing I want to show you. I think down here is the biggest hurdle Andrew Yang's facing in his campaign right now. I think it's the growing pains he's going through. So the way this question is worded, I'll kind of read to you guys to make sure it makes sense. Say, I'd like you to rate your feelings towards some people and things using a scale of 0 to 100. 0 means a very cold, unfavorable rating. 100 means a very warm, favorable rating. And 50 is neutral. Use any number from 0 to 100. The higher the number, the warmer you're feeling. If you have no opinion or have never heard of them, please say no. And you'll notice something interesting. Well, Andrew Yang has definitely the lowest in the very cold. People don't dislike him overwhelmingly. The highest in the neutral, which isn't necessarily great. The highest in the somewhat warm category, which is pretty positive. But even according to his own polling, in that very warm, like 80 to 100 bracket, we still see him lower than candidates like Amy Klobuchar and, Joe Biden. Now, I don't know exactly where that comes from, other than I think a lot of that comes from I think the voters Andrew Yang is going to win. I'll show you guys an article in a second on a couple people we're talking about here, are the kind of voters that are more or less undecided. They have 3 or 4 names in their head. They don't really have anyone they love because they have 3 or 4 names in their head. They're like, well, I kind of like Buttigieg, kind of like Warren. Maybe I can go with Sanders, but Yang looks nice too. I don't think those are the kind of people that check down 100% very warm for any of these candidates, right? But I just thought those are 2 things in this poll that really stuck out to me. One, the fact that the actual polling results themselves are fairly in line with what we see in other polls in the area, so it's not some crazy outlier. But 2, even Andrew Yang's own polling that they're commissioning, independent polling, they're still finding something that he still is let to kind of get over that last little hump and really start kind of fully capturing the hearts and minds, I guess you could. He's winning them over, I guess, but he hasn't won them over yet.
Yes, he's definitely fallen into the friend zone, but not the lover zone.
Yeah, well, hopefully he's not in the friend zone. No getting out of that, right?
Yeah. No, there is, but you have to start acting like a man and not a soy boy.
Oh, my God.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh, my God.
So
I wish I didn't say
you have to start
anything.
acting like a lover, not a friend, brother.
I apologize. I couldn't spare you all from that.
As a person who has no idea what the friend zone feels like, all right? No, just kidding.
Again, my apologies.
So anyway, I think that is a fair analogy, though, is to say, hey, look, it's not hard to get into the social circle. But to navigate the social circle the way you want to be perceived is a different story. Okay? And so I've known tons of actors that have moved to Hollywood from 2,000 miles away. They've packed their bags, they've saved their money, they've come here, and then something keeps them from going and leaving their headshot and their resume over at some kind of reality TV audition, or they just get caught up in some survival job here. Like, I've seen people where it's blown my mind the sacrifice they'll make to move the 900 miles it takes to get to Hollywood, but then the 90 feet it takes to get into the audition, the right audition spot is just such a hurdle for them that it's mind blowing. And kind of Andrew Yang seems to be there. It's like, man, he's launched. Okay. He's outlasted senators. He's outlasted governors. Okay. He's outlasted politicos with 2 decades of political experience underneath their belts, which is great, but he needs to find a way to make those last 90 feet. And that's just something that comes from within, baby. And it always involves leaving your comfort zone.
Oh, yeah. It's the hardest part, right?
Yeah, I think really, I'm sorry, but I'm a personal responsibility guy. Zach Grumman and Andrew Yang need to do some soul searching, and it might require them asking some very difficult questions of themselves from other people around them who are not afraid to speak candidly.
Well, but there's also a couple other things to mention there. It's not just all bad, but so first of all, I want to go over the other poll they conducted, which is a Nevada statewide poll from Myers Research. Again, something interesting to this, a lot of these polls will, bemoan landline polls. Roughly 40% of people here responded on, or actually no, 62% of the people here responded on cell phone in Nevada. So
Great.
it's basically a cell phone poll with some landline stuff thrown in there. We get through here, you'll notice it is mostly registered Democrats. Only 13 people said they're registered independent or Republican, and of the 13 registered independent or Republican, 66% of them said they will definitely switch parties to caucus. It's mostly Democrats we're talking about on this thing. Like currently registered Republican planning to switch to a Democratic party. I would pretty much just call a Democrat voter.
Yeah.
So here we go. This is the stuff I want to show. So first of all, let's get to the actual numbers here. And Andrew Yang at 5% in Nevada, which would be good for him. Now, again, one thing I also want to just throw out there, there's going to be headlines and stories coming out saying Andrew Yang's own polls show Bernie Sanders leading in Nevada, right? Like, expect that stuff.
Yeah.
But again, Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden basically fighting it out neck and neck at the top in Nevada doesn't strike me as some kind of crazy, such an outlier poll you got to throw it out. This once again looks like a fairly, with
Elizabeth Warren waning. Yeah.
I mean, all this what we've been seeing. Now, here's something else to take a look at, right? Now, in general, very few people chose the lean category up here, meaning are you leaning towards a candidate, not necessarily supporting the candidate? But I do think it's interesting that Andrew Yang also has 0% in this poll as far as people leaning towards him. Keep in mind, Bernie Sanders is 1, right? Like, it's not like people are like 40% leaning towards.
It's a stupid question that people don't even really know how to answer in a way that predicts any kind of future success or failure.
No, exactly, yeah. But the larger point is that there isn't I would say if you're polling at 5% and there's 2% that are leaning, that's bad. You know what I mean?
To be honest,
you want that to be 0 because people either support you or don't,
I'm an intelligence guy, okay? I got a freaking 200 IQ. And I wouldn't even know how to answer that. All right? I mean, how do you say, I'm leaning? I can't be a Trump supporter and be leaning towards the Libertarian candidate simultaneously. Okay? I can't be a Kamala Harris supporter and say, but I'm leaning towards...
But there's a lot of people that are
you can't hold a weight of support while simultaneously leaning. It's just like it doesn't work.
Some people do. For example, I would say, hey, you know what? At first I liked Elizabeth Warren, but now she's kind of a phony, so I'm leaning towards Bernie. I wouldn't see that as like, no, you lie.
Okay, but
nobody
you
would
can
feel
see
that
that's
way.
a pathetic question. It would be much better to say who's your first choice, who's your second choice.
Honestly, I gotta be honest, man. You put way more thought into that. I did. I just say, hey, take a look at that. And
well, I think the way you ask questions and polls is very important because in order to get the proper results that are most reflective of what's going to happen on election day, you have to have it in a vernacular that people understand.
I hear it, man. I hear it. Anyway,
I'm crusading for the people, Cody. I am crusading for even
I just want to get this last thing out, and then you could take it home. I'm not
gonna no, I'm not.
Again, just this poll as well. Even more so, predominantly weighted towards female. So I think I don't know if that was just happenstance, but it almost feels a little bit intentional. The AIM campaign knowing they're not polling as well in the female demographics, saying because they're both essentially 45-55 is basically the breakdown of the two. I don't know if it's 100% intentional or just the way it breaks down, but interesting.
Here's a question for you. I've noticed the last poll was 55% female. This poll was 56% female. Was that intentional or was that the natural hierarchy that just happened to...
I was just speculating them. Not sure. I mean, I would say could be either. I could see either way.
Is it just that maybe women are a little bit more likely to answer the phone if they don't immediately recognize the number because they're just more open?
But it also could be they asked, hey, I guess you're right, though, because they don't... Who knows, to be frank? They probably do. But even then, they would just
because that's really interesting that both of them were within 1 percentage point of female to male...
Yeah, I mean, according to Myers Research, the telephone numbers were generated by random selection. So, I guess
so it seems a little bit more like a natural hierarchy then.
Either way, good to see. Good to see.
Cool.
It's good to see Yang performing better in polls. Like, if it was like 70% male and he's at 5%, it'd be like, yikes, you know what I mean? But like, it's a little better seeing that. This is a favorable
they missed
view
your
of the
face
election.
on that one. They missed your face on that one. That was a really good one, Cody.
We'll have to catch up on.
We got to get the split screen back. Actually, for those of you who have been with the channel for a long time, we used to have this cool split screen that Cody liked doing because it was like not disrupted. What's that show? Oh, come on, with
I don't
Skip
know.
Bayless and Shannon.
I got some stuff I want to get to. I don't got time for that.
Undisputed.
I don't got time.
Okay, fine. Let's hit it.
Well, I just got some more stuff I want to bring up. I think this is really interesting because this is the last thing I want to bring up. There's an article written by AP News, and they kind of wrote New York Times as well, talking about Andrew Yang is winning the internet, but can he win the primary? Is that point of the article, right? But what I want to actually highlight here is towards the bottom of the article, they start talking about some voters they've been speaking with, and this is what I think. Mind you, a big part of the reason why Andrew Yang is not in the debate stage is because the media lies about him, omits him, diminishes him at every single chance they get, and the DNC kind of screwed around with what a qualifying poll. Because, by the way, if they had just said...
They helped Klobuchar.
If they had just said generally reputable polls count, Andrew Yang would be in the debate stage and no one... It's not like if they had opened it up to generally reputable polls, Andrew Yang would be in the debate stage, and like Julian Castro would come out of, not retirement, but he'd jump back... Like,
obscurity.
It's like, no, like literally Andrew Yang, probably the one candidate who's actually getting those 5, 6, 7s in other polls other people weren't. He's the one. No one jumped the gun on Tulsi or Bloomberg, but Bloomberg did qualify. It doesn't even matter. Anyway, there are voters like this still. So there are voters like Barb Larson, 78, who may not write Yang off. Larson saw Yang speak at a bowling alley in Clinton, Iowa, where the candidate took a few turns bowling after addressing the crowd. Larson, who was also considering Warren, Sanders, and New Jersey Senator Cory Booker, left the event pleasantly surprised. She said she'll rely on her gut feeling come caucus day. I really, really like what he had to say about what he will do for us, Larson said. He's made me more confused. I think when you look at the polls, you look at the stuff that there's a lot of people warm on Yang, but not all the way there yet. I think there's a lot of voters like that. I think a lot of the voters who are like, I don't just blindly pledge my allegiance to any one candidate every cycle. I pick the one who I think actually is the right candidate.
That's fair.
And I go with my gut. The only problem is, you're gonna get screwed on polls if that's your base. No, but just they don't poll these people. They don't want to talk to them. You can go through. I'll send the links. Read through that stuff. They ask these people like, so are you 100% like sure you're gonna vote for? Yes. Are you 100% going to vote? Yes. People that are like, I'm gonna go with my gut. They aren't the kind of people who fall through the cracks. Those are the people that Andrew Yang's really galvanizing. So I don't know. I've said this a couple times in videos now, but I just thought it was really fascinating. And this article kind of talking about like, can Andrew Yang win more than the internet? Even they are talking to voters who are like, look, I'm considering 3 or 4 people right now.
Yeah.
But I think that is how Andrew Yang wins. Most people don't go from, I was a pretty diehard Joe Biden supporter, but now, forget him. I'm on Andrew Yang. Like he's got to win his people over. So we're kind of in that.
No, I definitely think Andrew Yang does need to keep kicking and screaming though, because he was screwed multiple times by the mainstream media, who was in complete cahoots with the DNC, and the DNC has not learned its lesson about playing favorites because people always figure it out. They always figure it out because DNC, you're not good at it. Okay. You're not good at being corrupt. That's the worst part, okay? Like, at least whoever Killed Jeffrey, you know what I'm saying, Epstein, was good at covering their tracks. Everything's been erased. You know what I'm saying? We can't figure out who it is. You know what I'm saying? And even though we know somebody did it, we haven't been able to figure out who it is. At least they're good at being corrupt, okay? But you're not good at being corrupt. In 2016, we got the leaked emails of you sending the questions of the CNN debate between Donna Brazile and the Clinton campaign, okay? We literally have the emails where you're telling your favorite candidate that you want to be the nominee what the questions are going to be ahead of time, which is wildly unethical. We have the debate schedule where you purposefully scheduled the debates on days like you were competing with like Super Bowl Sunday and stuff. Actually, I don't think it was Super Bowl. Was it Super Bowl Sunday or was it just the most popular football nights? I don't remember, but you were competing on days where no right party politician in their mind would schedule a debate. Why? Because you wanted to sneak Hillary Clinton through. And you wanted to push down Jim Webb. You wanted to push down Bernie Sanders, because on a fair playing field, Hillary Clinton couldn't do it by herself. Okay? And that's absolutely what it looks like you're doing right now. You can make phone calls. You can make this a lot more even playing field, but you're not. So that's all I have to say about this, Cody. Is that Andrew Yang needs to be kicking and screaming, and then he also needs to take some serious self-inventory, because he can't control the DNC, he can only control himself. Where do I go wrong?
Couldn't keep up, man. But but I just want to really quickly. This is the most recent state poll from Nevada. While wrapping, because I agree with a lot of what you said. Wrapping with the most recent state poll from Nevada, you'll see again. very similar. Joe Biden at 23, Bernie Sanders at 17 as the front runners, basically neck and neck. Very similar to what the Yang campaign found. I think the Yang campaign found some slightly higher numbers on there, but basically that same breakdown of the two people. And then we go over to the Monmouth polling for, this would be early in New Hampshire. And once again, you see people who judge doing pretty well with Biden and Sanders there. Again, percentages differ there. They're not the exact same. It's not like, identical, obviously, because Yang's at 5%.
But they all show growth.
Yeah, well, the idea is the polls Yang did internally, the more I look at them, they look generally like what the other polls, the other myriad of polls that Andrew Yang did get 5% or higher in looked like as well. So we can talk methodology, we could talk the DNC, we could talk the media. It's probably all of it working together into a perfect storm. But at the end of the day, Andrew Yang only had one actual path to victory, and it was to do something most people hadn't done before and to really surprise some people. Like, he's going to have to... You can't shock the world if you just comfortably remain in the race until you gradually overtake the other people. You know what I mean? You shock the world by doing something like coming back, something like this. So it's kind of the... what's the word for it? It's the burden of opportunity, right? He's got a chance here to do something very, very special, but he's going to have to do it.
Okay, so I'm writing on this piece of paper, total truth right now. It's on a sticky note. This is why we can't have nice things. And I should cross out things, and I should say candidates. This is why we can't have nice candidates, DNC. All right?
Good, I didn't want to mention this, but there's always like the joke, right? That like the only person I'd want to vote for would never bother to run because of how awful it is for you. Imagine people, though, who maybe were like, what's the message you're sending to other people like Andrew Yang, who don't have the baggage of 20 years in the House or the Senate, who do just think they have good ideas and they want to run a campaign, they want to try to do it the right way, they want to get just grassroots support, they want to win the people over naturally, and they get fought every step on the way and lied about by the media and the DNC. Like, you know what? It's almost like this is them telling people, stay out. Like, if you guys have the audacity to think you can just run in our elections, we are going to make it very unpleasant on you, so just don't do it. And I think it's really unfortunate. It's awful. I think there should be encouraging candidates like this, not putting in situations like this where they're lied about, omitted, smeared, and made look like fools. So just to kind of try to diminish them out of the election. I don't know. I think Andrew Yang could potentially be fighting back on behalf of a lot more than just the Yang campaign right here. Because seriously, if this is the lasting image we have of the kind of the citizen candidate, so to speak, like, oh my God, how much now? Imagine the next person looking at being like, I remember when that Yang guy went, and they would like put up different people. They would just get his name wrong. They would ask, they wouldn't, norm at debates. They'd turn his microphone off till his name profile got too high and they couldn't turn the microphones off anymore. Like, I can't imagine what that says to that person 10 years from now who might have actually said, you know what, I'm going to serve my community and go and try to run for presidency. It's kind of like saying you have to do it the way we did it. You have to go to Congress, Senate, or win a governor's spot. Otherwise, we're not going to let you in our party. And it's I don't know. Like I said, it's not an encouraging message to anyone else who potentially wanted to do something like Andrew Yang is doing, because you're seeing what they're doing. They are going to go out of their way to omit you, and then they'll do the thing. It's kind of like what social media does. It's the idea of like a shadow ban. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like you don't know you're banned. So the idea is, the psychology behind it is, you just start to think that people don't care about you anymore, and and then you just it's something to do with like algorithmic changes and different weird stuff. Some people talk about it, where it's like all of a sudden you have to ask yourself, like, wait a minute, like, am I doing something wrong? It's same thing with Andrew Yang. If they're just like, you know what, we got the polls we need, we don't really need more polls, we're only going to use these certain organizations, you have to start asking yourself, like, there is that kind of moment of, wait a minute, am I just being screwed or am I doing something wrong? Because when there isn't like overtly in front of you, you don't know. Like, you have to just like say, well, I'll go with my gut and think I am being screwed here, and I'll persevere through it. But I don't know. It's just when you don't know if your failures are 100% legitimate, it's difficult. It's easy when you failed because you're dumb. So you can go, well, I guess I got to try it next time better. But it's hard when you're failing because other people are conspiring against you in the shadows. But here's the other thing that's even worse about that. This you can't prove other people are conspiring against you in the shadows. Then you have the self-doubt as well. I don't know. It's just a tough place to be. And as a non-politician, I was never going to run in the first place. Sure as hell, never running the now. Seeing the way they treat these people, because they're going to make you look like a fool, and they're going to lie about you all the time, and they're going to omit you whenever they have a chance, and they're going to put it in your head that it's not that we're screwing you, it's that you're not good enough. People don't like you enough, and they're going to try to turn you down. Man, the media loves turning people against themselves, and I think that's what they're trying to do to Andrew Yang. So I love seeing him say, no, I'm releasing my own polls, I'm staying true to my own message. I know what I'm doing is working, and I'm going to prove it on election day. I think it's good.
Yeah, and honestly, we could make an entire different video on this. But I've mentioned multiple times on this show as well that my heart breaks most for the Republic as a whole because we've completely disincentivized good leadership. You know, you can't complain that Donald Trump was elected and he's this and he's evil and he's that, because guess what? We got a system where the cream of the crop rises to the top, and so does the scum. And it's increasingly, whether you think he's cream or he's scum, I don't care what your opinion is. It's how you treat our candidates, because the people that actually commit the crimes literally just walk easy. I mean, at this point, we just know the Bidens are wildly corrupt. We've known that the Clintons are wildly corrupt.
Wasn't there that Nissan executive who got smuggled out of Japan in a box?
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how they do it. These people will find a way to worm out, man. It's crazy.
You know what I'm saying? And so we can't have a system that disincentivizes good and honorable men from rising. Now, I do give some credit to my American people. It took them 20 years longer. I remember being in 6th grade knowing the media was full of crap, okay? But at least when you look at the media's approval and trust rating, it's 2% lower than Congress. The two organizations in America that have the lowest trust right now, the media is at a 13% trust and approval rating, and Congress is at a 15% trust and approval rating. So, I mean, something's going to have to happen, because I don't know, I kind of think 13% is basically rock bottom. You know what I'm saying? But something has to be done, and I'm not exactly sure what that something is. So let us know what you guys think. Let us know if we veered verbose or incorrect in any of these analyses here, how Andrew Yang is going to come back from this, because obviously he's not given up. He's still got a lot of fight in his dog. So tell us what you think's got to happen, what you think's going to happen. Like, share, subscribe. This is Problem Solver Politics. We'll see you guys in the next video.